I am on a quest. I want to find out how to make software and hardware perform at their peak. I want to know how to make applications faster and more efficient. And while I'm at it, I want to have a little fun. Don't think I can do it? Just watch me. I'm Scott Moore, and this is the Performance Tour.
Hey everybody, I'm still on my never-ending quest to make software better, faster, more resilient, and give everyone the best end-user experience possible. You know, a couple of episodes ago, we introduced the concept and category of digital employee experience and what it meant. I want to expound on that today. I spent a lot of my career optimizing the applications that run on the back end, but as much as we try, sometimes things slip through the cracks, and that's where the service desk and the support center come into play. Can we reduce the cost of running the support center? Can we shift the service desk left? Well, to discuss this brings me just up the road from where I live in Gainesville, Florida, go Gators, to talk to the CTO of Lakeside Software about this very topic. Let's go, shall we?
With me today, I have Elise Carmichael from Lakeside Software. Welcome.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
We're glad you're here. So why don't you introduce yourself to our viewers and how you ended up at Lakeside talking about digital employee experience?
Well, my name is Elise Carmichael. I've worked at Lakeside as the CTO for about 9 months now. And honestly, before I joined, I'd never heard of DEX or digital employee experience. I certainly know the concept of being angry at my computer because stuff isn't working, so was relatively relatable. And I've actually been in the testing industry for about 7 years, where I was either running product strategy, evangelism, kind of all kinds of different roles at Tricentis and QA Symphony. And after that was at a company called Functionize, where we did test automation software. And really I like working on technical products for technical people, solving technical problems. I think that's a good time. So with Lakeside, I had worked with Dave Kyle, our CEO, before, and before he joined, he had been sending me a couple companies here and there. What do you think of Lakeside? And I go to the website and I go, I have no idea what this is. And we go look at some demos and try to understand it. And it's very relatable. You know, the problems that we're trying to solve, everyone gets very frustrated at work all the time. It's kind of unavoidable because something doesn't work and you wish that would go away. And the idea that we collected all of this data to be able to either proactively, identify a problem and prevent it, or if something is wrong, because you can't identify everything all the time and you call up a help desk person, you don't have to ask them to open up logs and look at this and look at that, and what did you do yesterday when this happened? Can you reproduce it? You can see everything. You have that whole historical, breadth of data that's being stored on the machine already.
All right, well, it's good to meet somebody who has a testing background like me, because if you know anything about this show, I come from a performance testing background. So I have to tell you, to start with, something that's bothering me. And in general, I've spent my career performance testing applications and making them better, scalable, resilient, and fast. And then I find out that we're still lacking something, because as I do this show, it's all about the end user experience, what they're actually experiencing out there. And it's not always good feedback that I'm getting that, oh yeah, you've got fast applications maybe, but that's not what our experience is reflecting. Where did we miss it?
Well, that's a good question. Things have changed so much in terms of how many applications are running on your computer at any given time, and how often those are upgrading and how much they interact with each other. So I will get a call from my mother every once in a while, frequently, saying, why is the internet slow? Why is this slow, right? And I have no idea what in the world she's talking about, and often it's, this program is interacting with this one, and so this one's using up a lot of CPU or memory, which is causing the browser to be slow, and therefore her website's slow. and there's layers upon layers upon layers. And I don't know, if the main reason that this has changed is because things are more complicated in terms of like the applications themselves. I think there's just a lot more integration points, or applications get upgrades constantly. Your browsers are auto upgraded pretty much every 6 weeks across the board. So it's a big change.
I get a call from my family too, and it's like, how do I turn this Microsoft computer off? I have to push the start button to turn it off.
Exactly.
It's like, yeah, you do. So let's talk a little bit about today's service desk, because when we're talking about the end user experience and they're not having a great experience, but they're not necessarily reporting that, right? So some people are just suffering through day to day, trying to get their work done. And we have a service desk, but we don't necessarily always use it, because some people think, well, if I place a call, it's going to take forever to get it fixed. They're not going to call me back, whatever. So why do you have a service desk if you're either suffering through or you're trying to get around it? What's changed about the service desk? I mean, is it harder today because of these apps? Is it the way apps are being deployed? Is it where users are working now from home? I mean, what is it that's different about the service desk now?
Yeah, well, before I answer that, I'm going to tell you that I have a lot of empathy for the people who sit in the service desk, because when they do get a call, somebody has already gone through the pain of they restarted their computer, they got frustrated, they weren't going to put in a ticket, but it got so bad, they finally put in a ticket,
They're already mad.
They're already mad. So they get these super angry phone calls, right? And so I think the change is starting on the service desk. Most of Lakeside's customers are wanting the proactive support. They want to be able to identify problems before they happen. Often, the end user doesn't know that there's a problem until it's bad enough where they recognize it. It's often things are just loading a little more slowly. Mm-hmm. And so if you're able to actually identify that in advance across an organization, let's say everyone that sits in Florida, their internet is going a little more slowly, 20% more slowly. You're not putting in a ticket for that. You may not notice it. You may be like, the internet is bad today, right? But if you could say, something different is happening here. It's our proxy that all these people connect through. This is slower. I can fix that. And you can start recognizing patterns. So that's where everyone wants to go. I think the maturity level of that is pretty low still, but I can definitely see a trend in that direction.
When we talk about software development, delivery, and testing, and we talk about shifting left, it's always about getting that feedback earlier and early, because if we get feedback that something's wrong and we fix it earlier, it costs less money to fix, and that's great. Mm-hmm. There's a graphic that's on the Lakeside software website that talks about shifting the service desk left, but that's sort of a different concept. Can you talk a little bit about that, like as you shift left and how you're saving money by doing some things earlier? And how Lakeside can help with that. Yeah,
absolutely. So the rightmost you can be is you call the support desk, because you've gone through all those problems, and you go, okay, well, let me go figure out what happened, reproduce it. The leftmost that you can go is to prevent the problem in the first place. Mm-hmm. Never even happened, because we've already solved all the problems. That's not reasonable. So you go one step over and you start being able to identify a problem as it's starting to happen, and you fix it immediately. So this is kind of your automatic remediation. Mm-hmm. So a good example, I always throw teams under the bus, because they know it's bad. It was built on Electron. They know that this is not the best platform. So say Teams is running, you've been running it for a week without restarting anything, and it's using up all this memory. You can just restart Teams. That's a problem. If you can identify it immediately, your thread count's going up, this is going up, you just run an automation and you kind of restart it. So that's where a lot of people want to go, is to this automated remediation. And if not that, at least give the tools to the end user to be able to fix their own problems. Maybe they don't want to just restart it automatically because they're in the middle of a call, mm-hmm. or they didn't want to lose their place, or they're in the middle of typing something. You give them the option to sort of heal their own problems. And I think that's kind of an ideal middle ground until we can better identify, all the problems in advance, what the root causes are, and make sure to do it in kind of a guardrailed or harmless way.
I think people want that self-service. A lot of them, like me, I'm kind of technical, so if I can solve it myself and you give me a few tools, I don't want to place a call if I can solve it myself. I think most people are like that.
Absolutely, I am, for sure.
So my next question has to do with staying proactive with the service desk. How do we keep them proactive, and how do we keep things to the left as much as possible?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's one thing I think Systruct does really well, because we just pull tons and tons of data, telemetry data, not Big Brother data, to be clear, off of every device that our product is installed on, so that we can start taking advantage of that data to start proactively seeing problems before an end user would experience them. We get about 10,000 data points every 15 seconds off of every device that it runs on, which obviously sounds like a lot. We don't store that forever. You can kind of sum it up. Doesn't really matter if you blue screened every 10 seconds. You just need to know, did it this many times on this day.
Could we get even smarter though? In other words, could we use something like everybody's talking about generative AI, ChatGPT, and how it's going to take over the world and everything? And I have my own thoughts about that, but realistically, could we use AI or machine learning in this context to get smarter and trust it even to roll out patches automatically, to find those problems before anybody ever knows about it? So you're like, nobody knew there was a problem, everybody's happy. Are we there, or can we get there?
I think there's a lot to that, and I think there's a lot that we'll be able to do very soon, and I think there's a lot that'll be down the road as some of these kind of general models get better. So I look at it in two different ways. You have machine learning models based on lots and lots of data, and number data, telemetry data that we have, which is one of the selling points of Lakeside to me. I love that we had all of this data. It was super well structured, super well labeled. That's usually in kind of the machine world land. Machine learning world land, that is one of the hardest things to get, is good data.
Yeah, that's gold.
Absolutely. So we have all this great data. So of course we're working on all kinds of things at Lakeside around being able to identify problems early on, being able to correlate them to things that look like the root cause. And that's going to be, a long-term project to get it just so perfect where I could look at any device anytime and tell you, there's something wrong here. This is what's wrong, and this is how you should fix it. In the short term, we have all the changes with OpenAI and ChatGPT, and the biggest change in how well their models work was just the quantity of data. So GPT-3 is what was running the original ChatGPT, and GPT-2 and 2.5 had come out years ago, and they were good. They were really good, but not anywhere near as good as GPT-3, and that was just trained on tons of data, which is up my alley of things that I care about, especially right now. So if I can ask my computer in, regular language, what's wrong with my computer, and it can actually tell me, I get fewer phone calls from my mother, not that I don't love talking to her, but I don't need to fix her computer all the time. Sorry, Mom. And, I think there's a lot you can do. However, do you trust it? That's a tricky question, because it's easy to say, okay, well, I see your process XYZ is running really high. What do we do normally when that happens? You can restart it and it just fixes it.
Let's just restart it.
Let's just restart it. Okay. Well, let's say I'm uploading a bunch of data to OneDrive or to the cloud. It might be something I do pretty typically. I don't know, but maybe when that happens too much, it restarts it or shuts something down or sees that this is a problem and tries to fix it so that I can upload better. What if I have a threat actor or hacker in my network? And they're uploading stuff, and it just shuts it down blindly. No one noticed anything. No one called support saying, why isn't this working? And so you can sort of hide problems that way. So you're sort of masking the root cause by just fixing the symptom. So you don't necessarily want to just fix all the problems all the time proactively. If you do that, you need to be very sure on what you're fixing to report on it. So you need to see, am I fixing this thing more than usual? Is it anomalous that I'm doing that? So that's one scenario. Another one is if you're creating the remediation, that's a very hard problem. It's very hard for people to do manually. I think we're a bit far off from being able to do that in an automated way for anything that is even remotely complex.
Right. It's going to be an interesting ride here for the next few years, for sure. I could go into some stories about some of the conversations I've had with ChatGPT, but we'll save that for another conversation. As I expand my message around the performance tour, because it started off being, okay, let's talk about performance testing, load testing, monitoring, observability, and all these things. But if we leave out, and I've talked about end user experience as well. We have end user monitoring, RUM, real user monitoring, but still I feel like we're lacking something. And what I've come to the conclusion is we've missed The digital workforce itself needs to be performant, right? That's including what they do every day and how well they interact with those applications that we've been testing. So to me, when I hear about this new category, digital employee experience, it makes sense to me that it's bringing in this other piece that gives you the 360-degree view. And it's probably obvious to you why people want this, but ultimately, why would companies want to have this platform for DEX?
Absolutely. From my perspective, the number one is just visibility into what is going on at your organization. I think there's three really fundamental things that a platform like ours help with. So the first one is obviously your digital experience. That's what we're named after. We want to make sure that the company's net promoter score is very high and you love working here, and there might be other things involved besides your computer experience, your digital experience with the websites you're using, but you don't want that to be a detractor, of course. It's a known problem. It's a known thing you can fix, especially with a product like ours. But also having visibility into how people work every day is invaluable. So productivity, how productive is your workforce? Are they restarting their machines constantly instead of reporting tickets? That takes many minutes out of the day every single time they do it, and then they have to kind of context switch and get back into what they were doing. And then also just the general IT spend. It's very easy to say, my computer's slow, I need a new computer, my title has XYZ in it, and so I get what I want when I want, instead of saying, well, you're using your computer in a very terrible way, how about we uninstall this or uninstall that, and since you're not using it anyway, and that's causing you problems. So there's a lot of IT waste in terms of spend. So IT spend, productivity, and your actual employee experience.
And oh, by the way, that crypto mining that you're doing on the side, probably not a good idea. No, I think this is great, and it's awesome to talk about how this is going to help everybody, the service desk, executive level. I mean, everybody gets to benefit from this. So I'm happy to talk more about this. So thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much.
I'd like to make a special shout out to Peter West and my friends at West Networks for making their location available to us to have our interview for this episode. And after our conversation, we headed out across town to, you guessed it, get some barbecue. This time, we're trying Mojo Hogtown Barbecue in Gainesville. Not many people know that Hogtown was the original name of Gainesville, at least that area of Gainesville. So check out this place. And sadly, that brings us to the end of another episode. So now it's back on the road to find my next topic, next interview, and the quest continues. I'll see you on the next episode of the Performance Tour. Wrap up, wrapping down, living la vida low-test. 503 is fine, living la vida low-test. Websites going down, living la vida low-test. I'll kill your website now, living la vida low-test. Living la vida low-test. I said I'm living la vida low-test. Oh yeah! Hey everybody, I'm still on my never-ending quest to make software better, faster, more resilient,